Welcome to Batman, Superman, Dawn of Podcast with Adam and Nick.
I'm your host, Adam, and with me is my co-host, Nick. Nick, how's it going?
Hey, dude, I'm doing great, man. Happy to be here. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's always fun to talk about the worlds of, in this case, because one of the characters is not in the show that we're going to be talking about, but always fun to talk about the worlds of Batman and Superman with you.
I don't think one of them is the world's finest, but close enough.
Yeah. So it's always a good time to talk all things Metropolis and Gotham City with you. As always, before we start with the main topic, or topics, which will be the episodes 3 and 4 of Superman and Lois, and episodes 3 and 4 of the Penguin. Before we get to that, if there is news regarding any character that we talk about on the show, we break it down and discuss it. And we do have some news in regards to the live-action movie Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. There's more casting. So what do we have in terms of casting? Nick, tell the audience.
Yeah, so if anybody's read the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow novel, which, as Adam alluded to, this movie is largely either influenced by or going to be adapted by.
Yeah.
We got the character of Ruth casted. So obviously on our last episode we discussed the main villain of Creme was cast. This one we got Ruth, so I believe her name is Marye Knoll or Marye Knoll. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. If not, I deeply apologize. She's our Ruth. So seems like we got all of our three characters in play here, Adam.
The main crew, if you will.
Yes, the main players at least. Yeah.
Eve Ridley is playing Ruth. And she was in, I can't remember what she was in. She was in a Netflix show, Three Body Problem.
Yes.
And I think she's the actress in question. Is about 13 years old or so.
Yes.
Or thereabouts.
Or excuse me, Eve Ridley's her name. Ruth Marye Knoll is the character. Oh my God! Yeah, geez, I'm so sorry, everybody.
No, it's okay. I had to make sure too because I remember when I first read it, I'm like, okay, who's playing who?
Yeah.
Which is the actress and which is the character again?
Eve Ridley. My bad, everybody.
No, it's all good. It's all good. We figured it out. But yeah, it's so she's in Netflix's Three Body Problem, and I can't say that I know much about her, but again, I'm at the point of this early DCU that I'm going to trust the casting people involved, which includes James Gunn. He's recently said that he's involved in every major casting decision. So, I have no reason to distrust this. If they think she's the one for the job, then she's the one for the job. And I'm excited that each DC project that we have been told is currently in production has movement, whether it's filming, nearing completion, which is the case of Creature Commandos, post-production on Superman. We've got Peacemaker that is about 2 episodes away from wrapping filming, and Green Lantern, or Lanterns, excuse me, which is based on Green Lantern, which is currently also in the casting phase. So all these things are happening. Things are going smoothly. And as a DC fan who's been through 2013 to 2021, that's all you can ask for. So I'm happy. And I can't wait to see some production stills or, from Supergirl to just get a sense of the visual tone, because that book, Woman of Tomorrow, is very visually striking. So I'm excited. How about you?
Yeah, I'm really excited for this movie. I think what I'm doing is I'm just waiting for Superman to fully like feel real to me, and then
Yeah,
I'm gonna kind of start to get
yeah,
really
yeah,
excited for Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow because I think this movie actually really has a lot of potential to
sure.
be really cool, to be a really awesome movie to watch on the big screen. I'm with you too. I'm glad that we got like I said, our main players have been cast, so now we can kind of start to visualize what we think the movie's gonna be, what it's gonna look like. Curious to see how Millie Alcock takes on the role. I know we'll probably there's word that we're gonna see her before her own movie, so that's gonna be really exciting.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
underwear.
wonder what movie that could be.
What's coming before her
Yeah.
movie?
But I'm really excited, like you said too, and just to kind of like reiterate your point again. It feels like we're finally in that stage as DC fans were. There's a little bit of reliability. There's a little bit of confidence. There's a little bit of consistency with these projects that they're not just gonna get green light just to get green light. So I'm excited that like now that Superman's gonna be off the board, here's Supergirl. Here's other projects that we got to look forward to. So that's really exciting, and I'm glad that Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow is moving along.
Right, agreed, 100%. Just before we get into the first topic tonight, which is the Superman and Lois episodes. It is worth noting that as of this recording, we're recording on November 5th, we are exactly a month away from the start of the DC, James Gunn's DC universe. Of course, Creature Commandos, I believe, the first episode airs or will be available on Max on December 5th, so a month away. So that's exciting. But we'll leave that there for now. And of course, if we get more Supergirl casting, if we get any other, if we get the Batman Part 2 casting in our next episode or in subsequent episodes, we'll bring all that to you. But for right now, that's the news. And we will go right into episodes 3 and 4 of Superman and Lois. So Nick, what's going on in 3? What's the main focus of 3?
Oh boy, glad you asked. So Superman and Lois. Oh god, I love the show so much.
So good, so good.
It's so good, and I can't wait to break this one down with you too. So this episode 3 of Superman and Lois, season 4 is titled "Always My Hero," and boy did that one pack an emotional punch at the end. We're gonna talk about that one. So this obviously takes place yet again after the events of Superman being brutally murdered by Doomsday, might I add. So we got a whole lot of things going on in this episode, right? So Jordan, the other brother to Jonathan, continues to doubt himself about not being able to save his dad. Jonathan gets powers. Hello, John Kent. That's
Yeah,
pretty exciting.
yeah,
We get the return of John Henry Irons and Natalie Irons. We get some cool little name drops that now we got Steel and Starlight. That was pretty cool.
right.
They get recruited to the DOD, and then we get another kind of contingency plan to stop Doomsday. And boy, was there a contingency plan, because this one had real life ramifications, let me tell you. Not going to spoil what exactly it is, but man, Adam, did that one pack an emotional punch. So, what were your thoughts on episode 3?
Yeah, and it was an emotional gut punch for a very different reason than the first two. Jonathan getting powers, I'll just say it's about time, personally. It would have felt weird had we gone the full series if only one of Superman's kids ended up having powers.
Right.
Also, the fact that it would be one that doesn't exist in the comic book, the mainline comic book continuity, while the one that does exist in the mainline comic continuity doesn't have powers. It would have felt weird, so I'm glad he does have powers. And I do like the fact that there is a contrast between how Jordan's powers developed, where he basically needed to refine them and, sort of get a handle on them. Whereas opposed Jonathan is just, oh, look, I got these powers and I'm pretty good at them. Like, I like that there's a distinction between the two boys because it matches the distinction with their personalities. So I like that. The the emergence of John Henry Irons and his daughter as the protectors of of, I guess, the world, specifically in this case Smallville, but the world, be in Superman's absence, I think is a kind of a nod to the comics when the four replacement Superman took over when he died.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like if you look at the first two episodes, right? Like Jordan, Jordan basically fulfills the Superboy role, right, in Superman's absence, and now we have Steel getting into the fray. So they did 2 out of the 4 because they only had 2 out of the 4, but
Right.
I like that they did it. And again, if you're gonna adapt a story, because we've seen the death done so many times, you kind of have to do something a little different, but also, and while doing so, respecting the source material.
Mhm.
And I think they did that here with that. The other thing that struck me in this episode was what happened with Sam. The fact that he pretty much knew he was going to die.
Yeah.
But was willing to do so on 2 fronts, to protect his immediate family, which was Lois and the boys, but also by injecting himself with the quote unquote doomsday sort of serum, which had Superman's DNA in it. He was also protecting the world because he devised this plan of, I know this monster is going to kill me, but they can use my heart because I have now Superman's DNA to resuscitate Superman, which is what they did. So it just shows you how much of a hero Sam Lane really is, and it really showcases the growth of the Sam Lane character from the flashbacks when he wanted his daughter not to marry Clark because he was Superman, to being fully accepting and loving of Clark as a member and Superman as a member of his family. So I think that shows a lot of character growth. So I loved the episode, and man, was it for these first 3 episodes, I really felt for Lois Lane because that woman could not catch a break for 3 episodes straight.
Mm-hmm.
And again, Bitsy Tulloch was the standout in these first 3 episodes, and really making that emotion feel real and resonate with audience members. I feel so. Again, wonderful job to her, and yeah, what a heroic way for Sam Lane to go out. He kind of got the Man of Steel treatment with his neck being snapped. So I mean that was kind of a cool nod, if you, I guess, if you will. But there it is. And overall, I like the episode. Anything else you want to add or discuss before?
I'll piggyback off what you said too. I actually thought the flashback sequences like they typically have been used, I thought were very, very cool, and very, very emotionally impacting too. Considering they tied everything together. By the end, I thought it was very, very emotional to see how Sam Lane went from being a fan of Superman to when Clark goes in to ask to for his blessing to marry his daughter. He's like, no, I don't give you my blessing because you're Superman. You can't have it both ways. Like that to me was so interesting because it kind of parallels the growth that you said too, right? That he went from having already so much respect for Superman to now wanting to do the one thing that he can for his daughter, which was save the woman or save the man that she loves, so he can come back to her. So I thought that was That was all beautiful. Jonathan getting powers, like you said, too, about time. The kid just screams Superboy, so that's really, really cool that they finally are able to set that up and then finally get the Super Sons next to Superman where they belong, like I'm sure they're going to tease. Um, and I thought Sam Lane's death was really, really moving, especially like obviously like if anybody's a parent or anything like that, and they didn't always have the best relationship with their daughter or anything like that. That was really, really moving. The fact that he sacrificed his life just so Superman could come back, and I thought that speech was just beautiful, right? And the fact that Lois was like, you were always my hero. I thought that was beautiful. And I think the last thing that I'll tease too, because now we obviously this is episode 3, but for episode 4 and on, we get little rumblings of this, is that he's gonna essentially be given a human heart, even though there's Superman's DNA
Oh yeah, he is given a
in
human.
there.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's really, really interesting. Adam, the fact
yeah,
that
yeah.
sort of like again, like you said, like not fully going into the Return of Superman route, but the fact that he's gonna um, be given a human heart, and he's going to be led to believe that he can come back as Superman. That's very, very
I have a
interesting to take
theory
into
about
that.
that, but we'll get into that as we
Yeah,
go through the second
yeah, very,
episode we're
very
going to cover
interesting.
today. So yeah, so all right, then I guess we could rate this episode and move on to episode 4. What would you give it? Letter grade.
Letter grade, I'm gonna give this one like an A minus. This one was very, very emotional for me, and it continues to set the stage for quite an emotional showdown. Many that we're getting, so I
Yeah.
thoroughly enjoyed this episode. How about you?
It's a solid 8 for me. Again, just the emotions of it all, and really um, watching John Henry and his and that kind of
Yeah, cool to see them again. Yes.
want to step up, but unfortunately, they're just not Superman. But their heart is in the right place, and they embody the spirit of Superman. And I think all that was evident. And more importantly, Sam Lane ultimately shows you what effect Superman has on humanity just by his response and what he decides to do. So yeah, for Superman not being present until the very end, where the heart beats or twice, not 3 times, which is important because it highlights that it's a human heart, and then he wakes up. For large portions, Superman wasn't present, but yet you felt his impact uh, in an episode where he largely wasn't present. So
Mhm.
it's an A for me. So with that, what happens in episode 4? Give us a little bit of that.
Yeah, episode 4 is titled A Perfectly Good Wedding. So this one sees the return of Kyle and Chrissy, who are about to get married. So this one has a wedding in this episode. But first and foremost, obviously, Adam, right off the bat, we get the largely anticipated, awaited return of none other than Clark Kent Superman. Because in the very first scene, they hit you right in the feels where Lois is grieving over her father. And here's Clark Kent, who comes flying right over to the farm, and right off the bat, the emotional feels are kind of really thrown at you, I should say. But yeah, so this one, there's a wedding in place. I think obviously the intention was to kind of lighten the blow up a little bit. Give you more of a lighter episode.
Yeah.
So it's kind of give you a little bit of a wedding at the Ken farm. Always a good time, right? Because those
So
always go well.
those never go well. Going back to Smallville,
Yeah.
like the show Smallville, not the location. But yeah.
Weddings in a Superman show always go well, particularly in Smallville.
And HBO thought it was special doing the Red Wedding. Did they see the Smallville episodes
Yeah.
with Doomsday? Speak of the devil.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, the wedding stuff was kind of inconsequential. I'm like, really, at this point, I really don't care about Kyle and Chrissy. Like okay, they're gonna get married, shack up. I don't care. Like, do what you're gonna do. I don't care. The real sort of success of the episode was Clark reacclimating to being back, realizing that Jonathan has powers, and kind of being shocked at how quickly he's acclimating to them. And then Clark and Lois trying to have to sort of navigate the happiness of John's reaction to him having power, and the kind of, I guess, resentment that Jordan's feeling because, well, now look, all the focus is on John and how great he is and how great he's handling the powers. But also, the other thing Jordan is dealing with is the fact that Lex Luthor played him the recording of when Lois chose to save John. And Lex basically saying, see, look at which one she loves more, right? Which makes him such a prick.
Yeah.
And it's like a total Lex Luthor move. But again, I think Lois explains herself well in the sense that I didn't realize that John had powers. At that point, for all we knew, he did not.
Right.
So it was the heat of the moment. I figured he'd be in danger where you wouldn't be. So her logic makes sense, but also I understand why Jordan's upset because you chose one, in his mind, you chose one son over the other. So I get both perspectives. And I think that just shows, it puts the viewer in a mindset of, imagine what it would be like to have children with these powers. Like, I don't have children myself, but I'm assuming it's tough enough. Imagine adding these superpowers to the equation and what that would cause. So I think it does a good job. That aspect of the story does a good job in sort of bringing that to the forefront. And I really like the sort of Clark and Jonathan sort of training / exploring the power scene.
Yeah.
Because up until Clark has his little episode, it was just such a fun, wholesome, pleasant moment, filled with joy. And I think that more than anything sort of brings the happiness and the joy that wasn't there in the first two episodes because of what we're dealing with. So I really like that. The visuals of them flying through the Arctic and through the snowy mountainous reaches was really cool. No expense was spared there. It looked really, really good. And then, Clark having, sort of a moment of tiredness, exhaustion, heart palpitation, however you want to phrase it, and then he goes crashing through through the tundra. That was really unexpected. The way they handled that, and it really kind of highlights that, and then John and Lois and Clark talk about how like you now have a human heart in you, and Clark talks about how he went to the fortress and talked with the hologram of Laura. They're basically discovering that he's got his powers, but they seem to be severely dampened.
Mm-hmm.
And other than having the powers, it seems like he's going to age like a normal human being at this point. Which I think is fascinating. But, before I say my theory, I'll let you, what did you think of this episode, the way the way those things were happening?
Yeah, I'm actually with you on the wedding stuff. Was like the part where I was like, yeah, like, it's cool to kind of have a lighter tone in this
I get
episode.
why,
Like,
but
yeah, like I get why too, but that was like the part where I was like, yeah, like I care, but I don't care, right? It's like one
yeah,
of those
yeah,
things. I thought the training sequence right off the bat, like you said, so I thought that was again the visual effects. I think in this show, I think we could all agree, have been nothing short of awesome. I think for a television budget like that, I think the effects have been incredible. What they've been able to do with the flying sequences and just showcasing the Arctic, like you said. Lex, of course, that menacing SOB man, who in an episode before that had the balls after sending a monster to kill their father, had the balls to go into a diner and then sit next to the two sons, all the
yeah,
more while inadvertently threatening them. And
yeah.
now, oh, like just I mean, Michael Kuditz, man.
Yeah.
Um,
Like
as
I still think Michael Rosenbaum is my favorite, but
yeah. This
he's
is easily the most menacing Lex
yeah,
I think
yeah,
we've ever had, like
yeah.
easily. Yeah. So I think the interesting thing is, I guess we might as well just talk about it too. Is yeah, I mean, like him collapsing and falling like that. Look, we're Superman diehards. Right? It's never easy for us to see Superman kind of like crashing and burning or going through hardship. So
Right.
that always gets you into feels like that too. But yeah, the ability that or the revelation that he might actually grow old with Lois and he might not actually be fully formed Superman like he once was. Again, it adds that another layer of dynamic because I think we all already knew that they were doing Death and Return of Superman, or at least a version of it. I wasn't expecting them to go kind of like some All-Star Superman route. Adam either, right? Where it's this idea that Superman doesn't have much time left, or he may not have much time left, at least his full-time Superman. And obviously we know that the show is ending, so like obviously there's some kind of finale or ending in place here that's going to be pretty anticlimactic, I think.
Which I have a theory that I can sort of say now,
Yeah.
since we're talking about the episode. So to me, I don't really get. I get what you're saying about All Star Superman, but I don't really get that so much as I. To me, I think the finale is going to be a hybrid of two stories, which is the Alan Moore story, Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, where basically he ends up retiring at the end. And then the other Elseworlds that I think they're going to take from, and the other thing I think they're going to take from is Superman Secret Identity, where in that story was a real world character named Clark Kent who had the powers of Superman. We saw him get married and have kids. In that one it was two girls, two daughters. But by the end of that story, he got old, retired, and the two girls took over. So I think what this show is going to do for its finale is take elements from both of those stories and kind of fuse them together for a finale. That's my thinking anyway. That's how I think it's going to play out.
I mean, like you said, I mean, both the sons got power, so of course we're led to believe that they're going to be like the super family, right? And Adam, I'd be remiss to say there's really only one super character missing, and I know people's feelings might be little 50-50, but God forbid if we could just get a Supergirl in there at least for one episode, we can have a.
And it would be nice to see Melissa
fully fleshed super family on the big screen.
The show went off the rails, in the final couple seasons.
Yeah.
But those first two seasons of
and them together was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. But those first two seasons were great, I thought, and regardless of how the quality of the show went in subsequent seasons, Melissa Benoist was a fantastic Supergirl. So it would be nice to see her. Whether she appears or not remains to be seen. It would be nice.
It won't make or break anything.
Yeah, it would be nice though. But
yes.
So I see this show adapting Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow and Superman Secret Identity for its finale.
That would be interesting.
So we shall see, but that's where I see it going. I guess we've covered pretty much everything, so we can, unless there's anything else that you want to cover, we can give it a rating.
Actually, obviously, like I thought when Jonathan swings into action to go save the lady in need in the fire, I thought was
Yeah, that was
pretty cool. And then obviously, like, and of course, the kid needs help because he's new to the whole thing.
And Superman comes in.
And seeing Superman come back in full form like that and just taking out the
I
bad
like what
guy.
he says. Not bad for an old or a dead guy.
Yeah, or not bad for a dead guy. New suit too, so that was cool to see the new suit. And of course, anytime they showcase Superman, it seems to be an awesome moment. So that was pretty cool. And then Adam, I don't know if you've caught this too, because this took me a rewatch to get it too. But at the very, very end, when Clark and Lois are, we'll say, having fun at the end, Lois's phone goes off, and every headline that she gets on her phone looked like a nod to a previous Superman movie. So there was like
Superman Returns,
Superman Lives. There was something from Man of Steel, and then there was. So I thought that was a pretty cool like eye winker. I think for fans too.
Yeah, that was really well done. I enjoyed that. So yeah, no, it was very well done. So what would be your letter grade for this one?
Yeah, again, like it doesn't take much for me, so I'm gonna give this one a really solid A. Thoroughly enjoying this episode. Glad to see Superman back in the forefront, and I think we're off to the races at this point.
This one would have been normally an A-, but because the wedding stuff kind of bogged things down a bit from what the stuff I actually cared about, I'm gonna give this one a B+. It's still really, really good. It's just where I think John Henry and Nat added stuff to episode 3.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle and Chrissy really sort of bogged down episode 4.
That's true. That's fair.
So for me, it's a B+. But still,
those ribs are still an A though.
I respect it. Yeah. Oh well, I was getting hungry. I will say that. But again, B+ is still a good grade. And I know in today's day and age, it's either the best thing in the world or the worst thing in the world, but I don't operate that way. So deal with it. But B+ is my grade. That's all we have for the Superman side of the equation. So we're going to take a quick break and come back and talk about the Penguin episodes 3 and 4. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
What's up, everyone? It's the Emerald Enthusiast. For all of your multiverse viewing and listening needs, check out our shows, which include Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Ghostbusters, Power Rangers, the Marvel Universe, and the DC Universe, including the Emerald Echo podcast. You can check us out on Podbean, and remember to subscribe right here on YouTube. That's the Multiverse Musings Podcast Network. From the first podcast to the last.
And we're back, and as promised, we are going to talk about episode 3 and 4 of the critically acclaimed and audience beloved, given the rating numbers that we have. Penguin, really setting records for HBO Max, and I guess HBO in terms of other than probably Game of Thrones, this is probably one of the highest rated things they've got going. And I think just before as we get into it, I think the success of the week-to-week ratings for the Penguin says something for weekly viewing as opposed to dropping a whole season at once, the way Netflix or Disney Plus sometimes does, and just do the week-to-week drops. I think this is a good case for that. And as much as I like the binge, I kind of prefer this because you have something to look forward to. Whereas with the binge, like imagine we had binged this. Now wait till 2026 for the Batman. Yeah, no thanks. I'd much rather the week-to-week. So I think the rating for this is an advocate for DC Studios to keep doing their TV shows this way. But with that being said, give us a little bit of a breakdown on what happens in episode 3 of the Penguin.
Yeah, episode 3 of Penguin, couldn't agree more, by the way, of everything you said. Episode 3 of the Penguin is titled Bliss. So this one is yet again we get another cool nod to the Batmans. Obviously, the infamous flood from the Batman has a whole new effect because now we get the backstory of Vic, who witnessed the flooding head on, and it kind of like it washed away his family, obviously like that. We know that he had a significant love interest that was very close and personal to him. And there's some choices that we learn later on in the episode of like how he decides to go about that. But this episode is pretty much is the continuing relationship and how it develops between Oz, Vic, and Sophia, because Sophia is still a part of this whole thing between them. And then we get some little winks and nods of Oz teaching Vic the way a little bit, how the mob life continues to work and things like that. And then we get Oz and Sophia continuing to team up by creating this new drug titled Bliss, so they can take over the drug underworld of Gotham City, since it is up for the taking. So there you go.
Yeah. The Riddler really flooded the market with possibilities for who's going to take control, pun intended. But I will say, just before I give some thoughts, the fact that this episode is titled Bliss, suddenly for me, Alexa Bliss is nowhere to be found either in this episode or on WWE TV. So I'll just say, since I mentioned her name, she is definitely on the list.
Fair
You
enough.
probably knew I was going to do that at some point.
I had to.
But it's been a while since I've reached for the pen, so it's time. But I really love. It was heartbreaking, but I loved seeing it. Sort of the perspective of the flood from Vic and the average citizenry of Gotham City's perspective, because it really puts you in a POV situation and shows you how horrifying that is. But I mean, because when you see it in the third act of the Batman, don't get me wrong, you imagine that it's horrifying, but when we see it in that context, it's cool third act, set piece, so Batman can right. Make some crazy heroic rescue and make some crazy entrance and kick some people's ass, and so it's just a different perspective when you're seeing it from sort of the street level and the effect it has on everyday people. And it was very horrifying, but it was a great way to call back to the events of the film. And you really feel for Victor there. In terms of sort of the present day stuff, for the first time, you really get Vic sort of. I see it as him coming to the realization of, this is a dangerous, world I've gotten myself in. Like that realization is finally starting to hit, and when he gets the chance to reconnect with his love interest, you really get a sense of he wants out, and this is not the romanticized lifestyle that I made it out to be. And you kind of root for, especially those scenes where he reconnects with his girlfriend there.
Mm-hmm.
You're definitely rooting for Vic to be able to get out. And because as every episode has gone by with this series, I grow more and more worried for Vic, and I don't think Vic will be around by the time final credits roll. on episode 8. So I kind of wish he had gotten out. But, in terms of another interesting fact of the episode is the initial Sophia and Oz partnership. Because, again, it puts Oz in a situation where, as much as, you see his power dynamic shift between how he interacts with Vic and now in that situation, he's the boss, right? And then when he is with Sophia, she kind of takes control and he reverts back into low level, operative for the Falcone family. And there's sort of that struggle for power, like you could see it on a micro level here in this episode. But I did like the way they sort of, once they made that deal, or when they were going to make the deal with the triads, the way they manipulated, what was the guy's name? The member of the Falcone family that they kind of caught sleeping with the wife of
not oh shoot,
can't remember his name, but the way they set him up was pretty well executed between Sophia and Oz.
Johnny.
Johnny Vitti, that's it.
Johnny Vitti. Yeah.
The way they set him up was top tier, man. That was great.
You knew he was getting popped, man.
Like he literally almost ate his cell phone at the hands of the Penguin and Sophia. So I love that aspect of it. And then during the club scene, before Vic confronts Penguin about leaving, when he's getting payment for the bliss, selling bliss, he has that PTSD moment where he starts reliving the flood. It shows you how events like that can stick with somebody, and you got to keep in mind that scenario is still relatively fresh, right? So of course it would still have an effect. Whereas, look at any real world tragic event, decades later, people who experience that still have traumatic memories of it. So it's like the fact that is so fresh in his mind and crops up on him in that moment is I think a very relatable and realistic way of depicting it. Then we get to the confrontation between Oz and Vic when Oz catches him and realizes that he wants to leave. There are moments there that this was episode 3. For the 3rd episode in a row, the Penguin threatens to kill this poor kid, but then lets him go. And I think on some level, even somebody as duplicitous and mischievous and vicious as the Penguin, I think he legitimately cares for this kid. And the fact that he let him go kind of highlights that, right? And then, just as Oz and Sophia are sort of celebrating and kind of Sophia begins to trust him. They're cornered in the parking lot of the club by the members of the Falcone family, specifically, the Maroni family. Sorry, specifically Sal's wife, where she has them at gunpoint and then basically tells Sophia everything about, he killed your brother and he was double crossing both of us, and it looks like they're going to get shot, but Vic apparently makes the decision to come back and stay in the Penguins organization, and basically rescues the Penguin by running down Maroni's, muscle, so to speak, that had them at gunpoint, and then Penguin and Vic take off, leaving Sophia to sort of scamper away on her own. So much for, let me show you that you can trust me, because at the first sign of trouble, he tucked tail and ran, I should say. And what Penguin said to Vic in the car at the end of the episode, he goes, "We're in it now. Like, there's no turning back," and there really isn't, because now Sophia knows everything.
Yep.
And you get the sense that this is the moment where all-out war was kicked off. Like, this was the beginning of it, and I really like this episode. The tensions were high. Even when outside of the Penguin, because obviously we've been told that he's coming back for the Batman Part 2. But everybody else, when Sophia's held at gunpoint, when Penguin has Vic held at gunpoint, there's so much tension in those scenes where you believe, like as an audience member, at any moment one of these people could get shot or killed. And there's no safety net of, oh yeah, this guy's going to make it out because he's part of the main cast, right? So it does have that sort of that sort of commonality with when I used to watch the original Game of Thrones, where you didn't know who was going to make it out of an episode, and it's the same here. Outside of the Penguin, you really don't know, and that just adds to the tension and the emotion of this show. And I thought the episode was fantastic. What did you think?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That this episode to me was so fascinating because not only did we get Vic's perspective through all of this, but I still think that it's fascinating that he literally starts off as like this bottom feeder. What I mean by bottom feeder is like he's not of like high class, right? This is a guy that comes from typical middle class family. Doesn't have a ton of money. Gets his family. He loses his family through an unprecedented situation. And then he finds Oz, the Penguin, obviously, and we're just led to believe that this is a man that can still run away from the Penguin at any given time, because this is the guy that's, the Penguin's still a man that limps and Vic is not. But yet he chooses to stay because I think it's this idea of power that gets to anybody, right? And like, as soon if you can have power, you want more of it. And then, the idea of getting more of it is what's always interesting to anybody. So this idea that Vic thinks he can be somebody under the tutelage of Penguin is interesting, because then you may be led to believe that maybe Vic's just doing this whole thing just for himself, so that he can go provide a better life for him and his girlfriend, instead of them just running off together and then them not having anything. So maybe this was all just like a thing that he felt like he needed to do for himself too. And the Penguin, Oz, I think, is just systematically breaking each of them down, right? I mean, I thought the diner scene was when they're at the restaurant, I thought that scene in particular, how he's like, telling the waiter that,
talking about his father,
yeah, like, you don't talk to him, like, you call him sir, or like, you don't, like, let him finish, right? Like, when Vic is stuttering, he's like, he'll tell you what he wants when he wants.
Yeah, I like that part. Yeah,
I thought that was a great scene for other reasons in and of itself. And I think the dynamic between Sophia is really interesting too, because again, these are all still mobsters, whether we want to admit it or not, and we're all led to believe that they're just going to flip on each other in and of itself. Because Oz's plan is that he wants to get all the families together so he can flip on all of them, to
Yeah,
where he's left with the breadcrumbs. Sophia wants to take over everything, and she thinks that Oz is just going to be along for the ride.
yeah,
Well, we're probably led to believe that Sophia's just going to turn on him the second that she thinks Oz is expendable, right? So this whole thing is just layers on layers, and like Adam, you just know, um, not that Oz left Sophia hanging dry like that. Like you just know, once she wakes up,
yeah.
that she's looking for blood, man. I mean,
It's not going to end well.
the second that he was just like screw her, I was like, oh boy, forget her.
Yeah. He's. I just, to me, after being threatened 3 times, if I was Vic, I hope between this episode and episode 8, at some point he finds the time to watch The Karate Kid and learns the value of the term sweep the leg and actually does it if Penguin attacks him, because that's his only chance to get away.
Seriously,
Otherwise, he's I don't, like I said, I don't think he's long for this world.
yes,
Anybody that thinks that he's going to magically become the Victor Zaz just because his name is Victor of the DC the
no,
Batman extended or the Batman Epic Crime Saga. I think you're going to be sorely disappointed by the time episode 8 rolls around. But I guess what would you rate this episode in terms of the letter grade?
You know what? I give this one like a solid A. I
Yeah,
know this was just a great episode, hour of television. Nice, plenty of twists and turns. Cool to see more ties to the Batman, and I thought the ending sets up more stakes to come. So I thought this was a great episode. How about you?
yeah, it's an absolute A for me. Just like so much, so many twists and turns, and so much drama and edge of your seat is like, oh my god, who's gonna make it out of here? Is anybody gonna make it out of here other than the Penguin? And it's riveting television, and I'm loving it. So episode 4.
Yeah, episode 4 is was quite a doozy. Let me tell you. So this one was titled Santani, I believe. I hopefully Chinchani.
Basically.
Yeah,
Basically, in English, it's 100. It basically means
exactly.
it's
Yeah.
cheers to 100 years.
Cheers to 100
Basically,
years.
yeah.
You think my Italian would come on that one.
Yeah.
So this one, actually, oddly enough, is the backstory of Sophia Falcone. So this episode kind of plays, it's mostly flashbacks. But this one is mainly, this was the episode a lot of people were talking about, because it's Sophia mainly in Arkham Asylum. So we get this, we find out that her dad, Carmine Falcone, actually sends her own daughter to Arkham just to cover up the murder of Sophia's own mother, just so Sophia can't, obviously like rat out on her dad. So we get Sophia's in Arkham, and then we get all the backstory of all the trouble that happens to Sophia in this episode. We get why she is the way she is. We find out why Oz is so willing to, why he's always one step ahead. It's because he literally started from being in the bottom of the family, to being
Yeah.
Sophia's driver, to now being to where he is today. So we get who Oz, actually enough, actually really isn't in a whole lot of this episode. So
Yeah.
he's kind of in some pivotal scenes, if anything. This episode really is more than anything just Sophia Falcone's backstory. So, Adam, what did you think of this episode?
I thought it was fascinating. The discovery of the fact that, again, Carmine puts his own daughter in Arkham and has her getting shock treatment to kind of forget, all to cover up the fact that he was murdering not only women that worked at the Iceberg Lounge, but the murder of his own wife is just insane, reprehensible. Like, Carmine Falcone is not winning Father of the Year. by any metric of the situation. Maybe on the Bizarro, if there's a Bizarro World, award for Father of the Year, maybe, but otherwise, not really. And I gotta say, the performance by Mark Strong as Carmine Falcone is incredible. Like, you really couldn't. There was nothing that suggested to me that Carmine Falcone was different than the actor that played him in the Batman. The performance was seamless. Like, that you could believe um, they were both the same guy, even though they're not. To which also I think John Turturro's reasoning for not reprising is ridiculous, but that's just not, it's not even worth going there because it's so hypocritical and stupid. It's not even worth mentioning. But
look it up if you should choose to do so.
Yeah, it's not even worth wasting time on. But because what happened in the Batman was far worse than anything they showed in this episode, at least from a visual perspective. But the other thing that I really sort of was impressed with and marveled at was Kristen Miliotti's performance as Sophia being broken down in Arkham. Like, again, I really felt sorry for her and empathized with her. And going through those shock treatments and being in a situation where your family's abandoned you, they've all turned on you to keep you in there, except for her brother, which was the only one that went to visit her. Would drive you insane to the point where you being in Arkham is probably the right place for you because you've been driven insane. Like, she only became what she is now because of the actions of her father. And that's tragic. But when you see her, when she's being attacked in Arkham, and she basically kills the cameoing Batman villain Magpie, who will not be in the Batman Part 2, based on this episode.
Such a bummer.
It's like, damn, like, that was so visceral and violent, but that's what you're going to get when you torture somebody to those lengths, mentally and physically. Like, they're going to break. And also, again, just to stick on the Sophia part of it all, you can imagine what young Sophia felt. Well, like, imagine walking into a room and seeing your mother hanging there. I mean, again, is it any wonder she is the way she is when she had to live through that? I would say, I would say no. It's her the way she ended up was probably inevitable, given what she had to live through. So I was really heartbroken and felt for her, and great acting job in those scenes by Kristen Milioti. Looking at the present day and when she confronts her family and pretends like she's going to go along with their wishes of all right, yeah, tomorrow, this is all too much to me, and tomorrow I'm gonna leave for Italy, and that's the plan, and let's have one last meal all together, and blah blah blah, and it's all well and good. And then she takes her little cousin and out of the house at night and goes and sleeps in the greenhouse,
Yeah, the garden house. Yeah.
the garden house, yeah. But then wakes up, puts a gas mask on, in this stunning, formal yellow evening dress, and proceeds to gas every member of her family except for one, which is again we mentioned him earlier,
Johnny Boy.
Johnny, but he doesn't fare well later on. But we'll get to that in another episode. And she gasses her family to death, and then gleefully skips out of the house as if I don't know, she was 18 and got all A's across her report card. Look what I did. It just. And again, the song choice, that was playing in the background, just added to the whole craziness of it all, because it's an uplifting song with this, her prancing around gleefully, and inside everybody's been gassed. It was just living in Gotham makes people insane. I'm just convinced of that fact. Like, there's no there's no other way around it. And this episode, man, it was as good as some of the best. Like, when you think about, and again, I use this example because it's an HBO show. When you go back and think about your favorite episodes, the best episodes of Game of Thrones, and the way they left you after the episode, this is right alongside those. Like, it's less violent in terms of the visuals, so to speak, but the implied of what she does to her family is horrific. Although, I will say, every one of those people, except the little girl which she took out, deserve what they got, in my opinion, for the way they treated her. But what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I thought, obviously, again, it's interesting because there's this thing going around where we're saying I can fix her, but in which case I don't think we can.
I don't want to fix her, because
Adam would then say, "Who cares?"
Kristen Milani and Sofia Falcone in that yellow dress are on the list.
Oh, hey, what was that line in Superman Returns? The son becomes the father, and the father becomes, or the father.
You know what? You know what the other line I'm gonna get. See, as this is a side note, then I'll let you get back to your review.
Yeah.
People, if people ask me which DC city I would rather live in, Metropolis or Gotham, I say Gotham, because listen.
Wow.
If I gotta get kidnapped by one of the Gotham City sirens.
Schwag is Harley Quinn's there, yeah.
Catwoman, Poison Ivy, or Harley Quinn. Listen, back in '89, the Joker said it best. If you gotta go with a smile. And if I'm kidnapped by one of those three, I'm gonna go with a smile. So by all means, let it happen. And if Batman shows up, I'm gonna tell him to take a hike.
So if it's not Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, do those rules still apply to you?
Well, I mean, as long as it's not, hold on. As long as it's anybody but Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn, then yes. If it's Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn, then I don't want to be that Gotham, because she'll probably start singing and I'll get annoyed, and it's like, yeah, I don't want that. No. Just, yeah. So anybody but that version of Harley, yeah.
That's why I choose Metropolis, because any version of Lois Lane is fine with me. So there you go.
Fair enough.
Yeah, no. I thought this was a brutal episode. Just to watch too, because it really showcases what a tormented soul, like you said, Sophia really is. I mean, the only reason Carmine kills his wife was because she was gonna leave him, and obviously Carmine didn't want his wife going taking the kids away and potentially
Right.
ratting him out to the police on things that she knew that he did. So just a brutal thing on that one. And then Carmine sending his own daughter to an institution, no less. I mean, going from being daddy's little princess to I guess daddy's little experiment, I guess, for lack
Yeah,
of a
yeah,
better
yeah,
term.
yeah.
That's that is brutal stuff, man. So obviously, again, like none of these people are good people, like we've been saying, but man, Sophia's backstory truly was brutal. And again, I like to focus on showcasing why Oz has this tenacity to always be one step ahead. It's because he literally knows the
He has
family
to. Yeah, and he has to be.
inside and out. I mean, he started from being her driver to then being Carmine's right hand man. So now
Yeah.
looking at where he is now. So like, I think that was pretty crucial in showcasing that. And like you said too, I mean, like you knew the family was gonna get off, like whether it was Oz or it was Sophia.
Yeah.
That whole family absolutely did get what they deserved, 100%. But it was still brutal nonetheless.
Mm. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's fantastic. So I mean, if there is anything specific, I guess would you rate it? Letter grade?
Yeah, you know what? I guess I like this episode more than most people did. I thought this was an interesting episode. I love getting the backstories of
Yeah.
characters.
Yeah.
Was the Arkham stuff a little bit? Was there some suspension of disbelief to go around? I do think that there was some. But overall, I thought this was a really good episode. I'm gonna give this one a solid B plus. How about you?
I'm gonna give this a full A just because the performance of Kristen
Yeah,
Milani is
she's
so good.
terrific. Yeah.
But like it's out of this world exceptional, and give her and Colin Farrell all the Emmys because they deserve them. And so to me, one thing this show is doing successfully, considering that it doesn't have Batman present at all, and that'll become a slight issue as we go through some more episodes. Not a major issue to where I don't like the series, but it's a minor.
It's an issue.
It's an issue because of reasons we'll get to in subsequent reviews. But
Right.
but
Yes.
but for a show that does not have Batman physically present, through the 4 episodes and ultimately through the 7 that we've now watched that we'll get to in due time, I'm more excited for the Batman Part 2 than even I thought was possible.
Yeah. I love this world. I love this. Yeah. This
So
universe.
that's a testament to the show and the world that Reeves is the version of Gotham City that Reeves is creating. That a show where Batman hasn't stepped foot into frame has me just so excited for the Batman Part 2. Is a feat of epic proportion. So what a great series so far. More reviews to come, but that's all we have for you this week. We hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, if you want to continue talking anything Batman or Superman related with us on social media, you can. Nick, where do they track you down?
Yeah, you guys can follow me on Twitter and Letterboxd at Nick Zennick, and of course, you guys can most notably hear me week to week on the Vigilante 1939 podcast. Just search the name of the show, and you'll find that podcast. Great episode as always, Adam. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, it was a good one as always. Enjoyed it. If you want to track me down, it's at Adam_LeafsFan on Twitter. We have the Facebook group for the podcast network, which is listed in the description below. In addition to this episode, you'll find interviews that we recently did with the creators of Kyle Rayner. You'll find, if you haven't already, by the time this one's up, you'll find an episode where Donnie and I break down the casting of Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart for the Lanterns show. So those are 2 episodes among many that you can check out. But check out the Facebook group that will take you to the YouTube channel and all the episodes that we've done. But until next time, remember that, I guess for this week I'll go with this in this direction. Superman on Superman and Lois is forever. From the first of 2 heartbeats to the last. So long, everybody.